Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. And when I go to the Honda dealership to pick up my car from the repair shop, I always laugh when they ask me my name. Because when they're trying to find my car, they're like, "What's your name?" My name's Kirk Honda, ironically, and my last name's Honda. What? It's just anyway. What was I going to say? I was going to say that if you are a cast member of this show or any of the shows that I watch, do not use what I'm saying as a replacement for in-person assessment or services. I'm just watching an edited show, so you should take that with a massive grain of salt. Is that a wrong way to say it? Some people say you can't say massive grain of salt because it's a grain of salt, small, so it has to be like the tiniest grain of salt. Let's watch.
We were just at therapy, and I just feel like you weren't really present. Stop making excuses.
Florian wasn't present in therapy. I feel like I'm being too sarcastic. It's coping. Yeah, so, he was not very present. Yeah. Okay, well, we can use it as a jumping off point. What would be a healthier way for Stacy to communicate this? Some of you might be able to relate to this, not only therapy specific, but when you're, so the thing that I drill into my couples' heads is to always think of it as the request. What is the request? When you are upset with your partner and you're miffed and or you're fighting, or at the very least, there's a theme of request. If not, that's the entire communication. But the request is veiled behind criticism and accusation and, that kind of thing. So she is saying, you were not present in therapy earlier. Okay. If you think of it as, well, what's the request? Then it changes the mode, and it gives you the opportunity to word it differently. And then you start to get to the I statements and the kind of formulaic ways that we therapists and other communication experts will recommend that people communicate. I ascribe to those, but I don't typically word it or talk about it that way, because if you just go off of the rules, people don't really understand the spirit, I statements are things like, Stace, you say, I feel blank because you blanked or something. And if you don't understand the spirit behind the rule, then you will say, I feel like I want to divorce you because you're an asshole. But if you understand the spirit, which is that you want to say your primary feeling is really what I would say, which is either hurt or fear. So I feel hurt and I'm afraid. I'm hurt that you didn't really put effort, seemingly, in my observation, in the therapy, that because it means a lot, and if you were into this relationship, it would make sense that you would be putting a lot of effort. I don't know if that's what's happening. Also, I'm afraid, because of the way it looked like you weren't putting effort, that you're not going to try to improve things. It kind of felt like, it looked to me like you were blowing off therapy, maybe me off, I don't know. And so that's my version of an I statement that fits the spirit behind the rule, which is, and tentatively, you say things tentatively, like, I don't know if this is what's happening for you, but this is how I'm interpreting it. Anyway, so she could say something like that, but instead she says, you're not showing up. Now, if you spoke in a healthy, more open way with him, would he respond better? I think there's a greater chance, but I wouldn't put money on it.
We came here to work on our relationship. Maybe it's stupid to you, but not to me. It means a lot to me.
To me, it makes sense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so obviously not encouraging, and it's bothersome to watch a husband just act like this, to blow off therapy or working on the relationship. It's par for the course, though. She knew who she was marrying. I'm not blaming her for his behavior, but this isn't surprising, and it shouldn't surprise her. Also, therapy is voluntary. So what we're hearing right now is that he's not consenting. I don't know how they handle this legally. But on Couples Therapy, the TV show, I have read articles that indicate that they don't call it therapy to the participants. They don't call them even clients or patients on Couples Therapy, the TV show. They call them participants. And they tell them this isn't therapy, even though the show is literally called Couples Therapy. Now, sometimes people think like, well, couples therapy is a general term. No, it is not. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and, marriage therapist or couples therapist. So it is a clinical term. It's like saying, well, you can call yourself a physician or a psychiatrist or a nurse. I mean, maybe nurse instead of a registered nurse. Anyway, point is that they're calling themselves couples therapy, but it isn't actually. And I don't know why they're doing it that way, but I suspect it's to get around the legal and the ethical worries that they have. There's a way to do it legally and ethically, but it would be a lot easier and a lot less red tape legally and a lot less liability, I think, potentially, if they could just avoid the whole thing. So I don't know how they're handling it on this show. I highly suspect that they have a similar legal arrangement with the participants, with the cast members, but I don't know. But either way, these are actual, at least there's two real clinicians here. There's two actual licensed professional counselors. And I mean, maybe they could argue, look, this is like a retreat or class, and therefore we don't have to follow all the regular ethical codes. Well, I'll say if this was actual counseling, actual therapy, then not only do we have to have people sign the informed consent form, meaning that they are consenting to treatment as we've explained it to them, especially after we've informed them. So they're not just consenting, they are signing informed consent, meaning they're consenting after being properly informed. Not only just reading things, but we've verbally told them things that they really need to hear, confidentiality, this kind of stuff. Now you say, well, this obviously isn't confidential, but you can have real therapy that has the asterisks of lack of confidentiality because it is being filmed. In my profession, for decades, we have educational tools of actual therapy sessions, and how do we have those published to everyone, mainly therapists? Well, there are ways of properly informing clients and making sure the clients are of sound mind and body to be able to consent to that, sign on a dotted line, that sort of thing. Anyway, so what I'm hearing, though, from him is that he actually does not want to engage in the treatment. Even though if this was actual therapy, he would have signed a statement. So in this instance, at the very least, the therapy should end. Like if this was actual therapy and I had heard that he had said that, then I would either have a really long talk with him individually without her there and probably determine that he is okay with therapy but doesn't consent. There's a difference. It's like, whatever. Okay, it's fine, I guess. But in order for it to be actual informed consent, the person says, yes, I want your treatment, right? The way I always think about it is like if we just replace it with a dentist. If someone had a cavity or evidence of a cavity or something, tooth pain, and they were wandering by the dentist office and someone said, hey, it's you're holding your mouth, you have tooth. Yeah, I have tooth. How about you come in here? And then the person kind of wanders in and they sit down in the chair. Dentist comes over and says, okay, would you like me to conduct an assessment of the pain? And the guy in the chair was just like, I don't know, whatever. Then the dentist, we would hope that the dentist would say, oh, well, I can only proceed if you want me to. So I need, a positive affirmation or a positive indication. There's a word for it. I can't remember all my technical language, but there's a firm statement of yes, I want this, not just like a vague like I'm okay with it. So I would terminate right there, and I'd say, therapy, and I've had those conversations. It's not very frequent, particularly in my later career, but I had a lot of them in the beginning, and I would tell. It was often with teenagers that were being dragged into therapy. And, it's kind of a very nuanced area, because if we always terminated with teenagers that didn't want to be there, most teenagers would ever be in therapy. So there's some nuance there of just like, well, I'm not getting like a firm yes from this kid, but maybe I can prove to the kid that therapy is tolerable, and I will get a firm yes down the line, after a few sessions or something like that. But anyway, we're not talking about a teenager. We're talking about a grown man. He is 32 years old, and so he should be able to make a decision. And it sounds like he's making a decision not to be in therapy. So if I were a little birdie on Stacy's shoulder, I would say, whatever you do not proceed with treatment, because it's just going to hurt you, because he doesn't want to engage with it. It's just going to frustrate you. Now, maybe he's just saying it because he's in an argument, and there's a part of him that would say, well, I don't really see the point in this, but, I'll go along with it because, I'll participate. He hasn't yet. And he's basically saying he's not going to.
Wow. I don't know. I'm like embarrassed.
Embarrassed for what?
Because I feel like my own husband does him love me.
What's crying?
Because I feel like you don't care. You don't care enough. This is not how I hoped my first night in therapy would go.
I would just want to know from Stacy, what did she think would happen? I mean, can we possibly imagine Florian being like, oh, therapy, yeah, I'm going to open up and talk about my feelings. And I mean, maybe, of course, she has seen a different side to him, but but this happens where you avoid, or you get into a homeostasis or a pattern or a routine, and you can just kind of make it work. And then you go to therapy, and it really shines a light on the reality of it. And it can be a very clear accelerant to clarifying the relationship and maybe ending the relationship, or at the very least, like reorienting it or something.
I'm finding a hard time believing Florian's story about the makeup on the shirt. I don't think that he's taking this seriously. And I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I showed a clip of that. There has been talk about lipstick on his shirt. He claims that he wasn't cheating. We haven't seen his explanation for it. I suspect he might have said something and they just haven't included it. The show likes to create drama as best as it can. Like, currently, I'm at the end of the first episode, that I'm sure if they gave him a chance to talk, or at least I'm guessing, then there would be some explanation for that post where he's kissing someone on social media. Maybe not, but there's some kind of story there, and they haven't asked him about it at all. We've only heard Ari's side. We've barely heard Benny talk at all. So I suspect that there's something to that story that, now maybe it's even worse and they're just stringing it out. I don't know. But I can never really trust this show to show all the data so that we get like a more nuanced picture. The show likes to lean into the very common reality TV show manipulation and really audience expectation that in every couple there's always a good guy and a bad guy, and that the show will know who people will, and people will identify more with Stacy. I know that for sure, and not with Florian. So if there was any sympathetic thing from Florian, they wouldn't present that because they want to get people riled up like me, especially in the first episode.
My old years like this, these are my good years. I'm scared for our future. I really am.
I will say that on the scale of things, Stacy's reaction there was fairly mature and differentiated. When we compare her to like Jasmine and that kind of thing, it's her, I think, having rational feelings and not being unfair and not being impulsive with her statements. I think she has a mode where she will say things like this, hoping that it'll get through to him, and maybe it does. Sometimes the Florians of the world, they do not respond in the moment. They just are quiet, and they are absorbing or they're noting what you're saying, and then later they adjust somehow. So that could happen. Well, let's cross our fingers. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you see anyone that's impersonating me, which I feel doesn't happen as often as it did a while back, please email us through the website. That's the only way you can really make sure that you contact us. If you comment below, in fact, it's not likely that I'll see it. There's a lot of comments on a lot of videos. I mean, I tend to see the top comments, but anyway, if you want to get a hold of us, email us. Also, along these lines, if you ever want to suggest a show that I watched, like not too long ago, I got a bunch of emails to watch Unknown Number, the high school catfish, even though it's not a catfish. And normally I didn't even know about that documentary, and I just got a flood of emails, and so I thought, okay, well, let's give this a shot. And then I did it, and yeah, a lot of people were interested in that video. So when sometimes people will comment below, or they figure, well, someone's probably bothering Kirk to watch this. It's not necessarily true. And I don't have Instagram anymore, and I don't have TikTok, and I don't have Twitter. So the only way to contact me is through our website, psychologyseattle.com, and use the contact button. So that's a lot of stuff that I just said. Take care of yourself. That's the main thing, because you deserve it. That's the second main thing. You really, really do. The third main thing.